Well, European leaders couldn't come together late last night on an agreement to extend a loan payment to Greece, all as the Greek Prime Minister, George Papandreou, is about to face a confidence vote in Parliament. Our next guest has studied the European situation very closely while at the IMF for 28 years. He's Alessandro Leipold, the former director of the European division at the IMF, and now a chief economist with the Brussels-based think tank, the Lisbon Council. Alessandro, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Betty.
And I've got to wonder, or you've got to wonder as well, I mean, what do you think prevented the finance ministers and prevented the leaders from coming together to extend this loan payment to Greece? What exactly is really behind this?
Well, I think expecting them to really come out with a disbursement yesterday, I think would have been excessive. It's obvious that, just on the eve of a confidence vote, whose outcome we don't really know, and even before the budget is voted, which will be at the end of the month, it's obvious that they couldn't really disperse, but they could have at least indicated the amounts that they would be willing to disperse once these conditions were met. The fund has for a long time had something it's called prior actions, which basically are actions that a government has to take before it would disperse its funds. Mm-hmm. And the ministers could have done the same yesterday, saying, if these conditions are met, we will disperse this amount as soon as they are met in full. And rather than saying, we will be giving you all the details about a clarity on a financing package on July 11th, which is far too long time away.
That's weeks away.
And at the same, it is weeks away. and the uncertain crises thrive on uncertainty, and the officials are providing that in large doses. And it really is time for them to surprise us on the upside and actually anticipate markets.
So then why do you think that is, Alessandro? Why do you think they weren't clearer then on the amount that they would disperse?
because I think there are divisions. I mean, it's obvious there are divisions within the Europeans. The decisions are too politicized. There are players in the decision-making process on the European side that have stakes in the game, which is sort of unusual. Obviously the ECB has large stakes in the game because it's the holder of Greek debt. Mm-hmm. The French and the Germans have stakes in the games because of the exposure of their own banks. Whereas the usual setup is you have the IMF and a debtor country. The IMF has preferred creditor status, which basically means it can take a dispassionate view about restructuring because its own credits are not in play.
Right.
This is not the case in the European situation right now, and that's what is causing a lot of the divisions and a lot of the difficulties.
Alessandro, if Papandreou doesn't receive the confidence vote, then what happens? That's the worst possible outcome, of course. I would think that he will. These are obviously difficult to forecast, but with Venizelos now behind it, and he sounded very, very committed. He made sure to make statements which were very forceful in Luxembourg yesterday. And he has the sort of heavy political weight with the PASOK dissidents that I believe will be enough to carry it forward. So I'd rather think positive on this and hope it goes through. Alessandro, if you were a finance minister heading the government in Italy, and if you're heading the government in Spain, and you're watching the machinations going on around Greece, what would you be thinking and what would you be doing?
Well, you mentioned Italy. I certainly wouldn't be cutting taxes, which is one of the things that are being discussed a little bit to boost the popularity of the Berlusconi government that is in difficulty. And Minister Tremonti is rightfully resisting that. I would be concerned because, as I said, crises thrive on uncertainty. And in the midst of uncertainty, contagion can spread, as somebody has put it sort of colorfully, at the speed of fear. And quite apart from the economic fundamentals, because I think it's quite right to say that Portugal and Ireland and Spain and Italy are not Greece, and they're not similar even amongst themselves. So the economic fundamentals are different, and there wouldn't really be an objective reason for contagion to them all. But in this sort of climate, it can very well happen.
But are they doing enough to get ahead of that story right now?
I think the Irish and the Portuguese probably are. I think the Italians have been extremely responsible as well in holding the line. I am a little worried, as I said, about the current political context. And Spain has done a good deal as well. So I think, the economic fundamentals would not really justify them finding themselves in the same situation as Greece. But as I said, markets there can be herd behavior, they can be fickle at times, and the communication with the markets on the part of the European ministers has been so disastrous that indeed the worst scenario could very well unfold.
Alessandro, thank you. We're going to leave it there. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Betty. A pleasure. Thank you.